Welcome everyone to our August community call of 2024. We skipped last month's call because we had some delays in our O.30 or O.29 release. I think it was 29 last time. And we just decided to push it out so that it aligns with each release. So we should be having a release in a couple days next week, hopefully. And we can get started. What's the community call for? It's for you, not for us. We have the chat for any questions, and we have our team here to answer any questions, as well as raising your hand at the end of the call. We'll have a questions and answers portion at the end. And hopefully the chat works for everyone. If it doesn't, if you leave and rejoin, that could help. Like I said, yeah, use the chat. If you have any questions, raise your hand, and you could come off mute and ask us directly. Okay, O.30 should be released next week, hopefully. And we should have export as bicep support finally in mid to late August. We realized that we're having a couple bugs on the portal side, so it's taking a little longer than we expected, but mid to late, or sorry, not mid to late August, mid to late September should be when it should be released. So finally, we could have in the portal export as bicep as an option next to export as ARM template, as well as export as Terraform. I know that's something that everyone has been asking for a while, so hopefully you can benefit from that. Next one, we have, we realized that there was missing validation for property access on an element in an array, so we provided support for validation here. Just a small bug that we noticed. Some local deploy bug fixes as well. So local deploy is a feature that we implemented last month or last release. We actually don't have a demo on that today. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about it next month. But for anyone who wants to learn more about local deploy, we have this pull request here. If someone could link in the chat, otherwise I will link it after we go over the release notes. This is experimental, so just keep in mind that if you run into any bugs, please create an issue. It's not fully finished yet. In our last one, we found that path completion wasn't behaving as we expected for modules when choosing a file to import, so we now built support for that, and that should work out well. So kind of small things here and there in this release. We've been focusing on some of our bigger other features that we will talk about later. Cool. Future releases, local deploy, like I mentioned, we're working on that right now. More MS Learn paths. So we noticed that we don't have MS Learn paths for like user-defined types, user-defined functions, or anything else like that. And we've been working with the documentation team to create new MS Learn paths to hopefully account for these missing features that have been added since the MS Learn paths were created. To be determined, in the future, we're also working on dynamic type updates, which has been put on hold. Private registry completions also put on hold. Resource between modules also been on hold, unfortunately. But Bicep deploy, we have started some investigation on what we could do with Bicep deploy. This will be similar to Terraform. I think Terraform apply. We're hoping to have all of the configurations within one file, and this could account for different, I guess, different features that people are hoping for Bicep to play, like multiple parameters files or multiple scopes. We're looking into what is possible with this. So yeah, if you want to give any comments on what you want for Bicep deploy, we have an issue in the Bicep repo. Yeah. And something I forgot to add, what if improvements? We'll talk about that later at the end, but that is one of the most requested updates, and we have been working on it. That's kind of why we haven't had too many features released. It's because that has been a big priority for us right now. We don't know when it will be released, but like I said, Johnny, our engineer, will be talking about that later. Cool. We could get started with our first topic. Jason, I'm not sure if you want me to click through or if you wanted to share your screen.
You can click through, that's fine.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thanks. So hello, it's good to see everyone here. My name is Jason, and I'm an engineer on the Microsoft Graph team working on the Graph Bicep extension. And today I'm gonna bring some updates on the Graph Bicep extension with dynamic type support. So a quick overview, dynamic types is a feature that allows bicep types to be pulled from Microsoft Artifacts Registry. There are a few reasons for the Graph Bicep extension to support dynamic types. The first is that dynamic types enable semantic versioning of Graph Bicep types. Currently, the Graph Bicep extension is not versioned in the Bicep compiler, so when a new release containing plan breaking changes in the Graph Bicep types, you are forced to update your templates to be compatible with the latest version, which is not a ideal experience. And another reason is that the dynamic types allows the Graph Bicep types release to be decoupled with the Bicep compiler release, which allows us to deliver new features more frequently. Sammy, could you click through? Yeah, so an example here with you can see that with dynamic types and versioning, you can define your preferred graph bicep types version in the bicep config with the registry path, and then import the extensions in your bicep template as usual. Next slide, please. Yeah, so our rollout plan for the dynamic types. So once dynamic types is released, we will support both built-in and dynamic types side by side. Built-in is the current experience where the graph bicep types are loaded via a NuGet package. And then the built-in support will be deprecated while after dynamic type release, and then it will be removed 3 months after the deprecation date. Stephanie, could you click again? Another update on the related resource modeling, such as group members and owners relationship. This update requires a model change in the graph bicep type, so it will be a breaking change. And we will release this change via dynamic types with a updated minor version. And yeah, that's all for the update today. And feel free to comment in the chat or in our GitHub repo. Thanks.
Thanks, Jason. We have one question. Are wildcards supported?
Do you mean wildcard cards in types or like in registry path?
I think in the registry path, I think I'm wondering, Jason, if I want to be as dynamic as possible and not always be updating bicep config. Is there a way to express that?
We haven't really like investigated in that way because currently we kind of want the version and the path to be explicit, but that's definitely something that we want to look at.
Okay, cool. I was just curious.
Yep.
Cool. And I know someone also asked for an update on when MS Graph will be GA'd. Our plan, I guess our hopeful plan is at the end of this year or early next year, hoping that everything goes well. So that's our tentative ETA. Cool. Stephen, did you want me to scroll through or did you want to take over?
I've only got a couple slides. Go ahead and scroll to the next one.
Oh, shoot. Okay, there you go.
Sorry, I'm still seeing content sharing has ended.
Yes, I think you Are you sharing your
Oh, that
screen?
was me. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, let me just
Okay.
go back quickly again.
Oh, I think that so I'm sharing a window instead of the actual PowerPoint.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
just to mention quickly, this is a feature I've been working on. Hopefully get released um, in the October release. This came from a suggestion from Simon that you should be able to like take, for instance, a resource property and easily convert it, say, turn this into a parameter, pick up the default value, pick up the description, etc. So I've kind of generalized that a bit, and I've created as extract variable and extract parameter. And I'll go ahead and just show a quick demo. Okay, so we've got here, for instance, if I wanted to take this unique string portion and pull it into a variable, I could do so quickly. Same for a parameter. Notice we do the rename pop up immediately as well. I'm actually, people have to tell me whether this works well or not, but I've experimented so that I'm actually, finding the parameters above the closest parameter and sticking it after the next parameter, the same with a variable. So again, let me know if that works well or if I can adjust things there. I do try to make some intelligent guesses on the names whenever possible. Something else you can tell me about and play with? So variables are pretty easy. There's no typing involved. With parameters, it's more interesting. But let me just demo quickly what that looks like. Yes, there weren't. I know that this one has a description. There we go. So we pulled out the description from the resource metadata itself. You can be more interesting than that. So file arrays, etc. And you may notice here I've got in this case I got two different options. So I've got the standard simply array, and then I've got as user-defined types. So you can choose either one there. I choose something more complex. Likewise, we can handle that. There are a few scenarios that user-defined types don't quite handle as much expressiveness as in Swagger. So in those cases, I'm commenting what the original type was. Let's see, description. I think that's mostly it. Were there any questions? Okay, great. So
Steven, question. When we have the import types, so we can mark a parameter with a type of a particular resource, would that be handled, or it will just generate the type?
you're referring to resource, what are they called? Resource
types or something.
resource derived types.
Yeah, I think so. That was the name.
Yeah. In other words, I don't know if you've all seen that as experimental feature. You could say, and I don't have it enabled, you have to enable it, but you could say, give me a parameter that's the type used by the property of virtual machine extensions. Yeah, when that, I do plan on adding that. Of course, it'd be available only when you've got the feature, the experimental feature enabled. So that's definitely going to be there as a possibility in the future.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions? If not, you can go to the bug that was mentioned if you got some comments or requests for it. And let me know if you have any other comments. Thanks.
I think there was a question asked, how complex of an object will it create?
How complex of an object?
Mhm.
Is that was the question? It'll go as far as it can. We do, if it finds a recursive type, it has to give up at that point. We can't currently deal with, if you have, let's say, here, let me.
So in the code that you were showing, if you just want one level and tried to extract the settings, would it know enough to create a type with that file type in it?
Settings.
So
I'm not seeing that.
So it's on line 49.
49. Ah.
And sorry, when you get the chance, if you could zoom in, that'd be great.
Okay, so it's doing self-typing there. So it's creating a settings that is a complex object with a string array. So it looks like it's actually doing pretty well.
Hopefully so. I'm trying to
Yeah.
handle most cases. It does not handle every case. But
It'd be
yeah,
nice. It'd be nice to also be able to change that into a user-defined type. But I mean, that's trivial to do because.
You just mean pull it out as type equals?
Yeah, and then so that you can say, hey, I want to take settings and make a type out of it, and then create a parameter that says, I want a parameter of settings that is type of whatever user-defined type you created.
Hmm.
Yeah, I will agree. This would be handled, and you can sometimes you start with a parameter with a custom type, and then want to extract it and export it from the module. So a helper would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just it makes your whole code simpler because then your parameter ends up being, of type X or whatever, and then that is defined elsewhere. And then you can reference it elsewhere because now you've got a whole type that you have to deal with and not have to, deal with passing information back and forth.
So you're thinking maybe there would be another option here, extract parameter and type?
No, just extract user type, your user-defined type.
Or just pull out the type itself and not
Yes.
the. I see.
I mean, I guess you could do both at the same time, but yeah, extract the parameter as a user-defined type.
Yeah.
Because then you can then import that into your, into your calling, as a module.
Okay.
You can then pass that in, and it makes the whole IntelliSense stuff much more brilliant.
Yeah, well, that would be easy to do. I don't know if resource-derived types would completely eliminate that need when they're introduced. I don't know a whole lot about them.
I don't either. I know that
yeah.
that's something we've been looking at for forever.
Right. Well, add a +1 to the chat. Anybody who's interested in that, because that'd be easy enough to add. So, and if there are any other comments to the bug, of course. And as far as complexity too, this won't actually compile, but should be able to handle most complex things. Like I said, recursive, I have to give up and expand at that point, but it does handle it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking from a, dealing with a silly app gateway parameters and those complex objects that you get in those things.
Okay. So yeah,
this
so
is
again,
brilliant. This is excellent.
thank you. Glad to hear it. And thanks, Simon, for the suggestion. So, okay. So yeah, any other comments? Let me know in the chat or in the bug. And thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. We have a lot of +1s in chat, so looks like, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. I will go back to the PowerPoint. So we are, we've actually already conducted several interviews on bicepparams. So if you're in this call, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it so far. And we're trying to see if we could get more people to sign up for interviews just on bicepparams, how it's working for you, any issues that you're running into, and specifically if you've tried like modular params or inline parameters. There's a question in that survey. I'm going to put that link in chat if anyone wants to sign up for a 45-minute interview to share with us your experience with bicepparams. Yeah, it would be great to hear from you guys to see what we want to prioritize next and what features we should focus on next. Cool. Next topic, Alex.
Yes, so this is a bit like hot off the press, and everything is not finalized at this point, but tentatively, we're pretty confident that both the Bicep product group and the Azure Terraform product group are going to have some form of representation at this year's US Powershell and DevOps Summit that takes place in Bellevue in April. We don't know yet how many sessions we're going to participate in or any of those sorts of details just yet. But we did want to indicate to you all that we will be there kind of as much as we possibly can. You may have noticed if you've gone to Ignite or Build in like the COVID and post-COVID era, there's just not much room for deep dive sessions on technical topics. It's a lot more kind of feature announcements and things of that nature. So as a result of that, we're just exploring different ways that we can get the word out to more people and go deep on a handful of topics. There's Bicep and Terraform are so big that we need more time to really cover these features for what they're worth. So that's basically all we know, and I just wanted to get that on everybody's radar. I think there's a lot of overlap between the PowerShell community and the Bicep community, so we hope this is going to be productive and fit in nicely. And the call for proposals for PowerShell and DevOps Summit opens at the end of September, so about a month from now. And we would love, in addition to us planning to participate there, we'd love to have some community sessions there as well and get representation from you all on what you're doing with Bicep and Terraform, or whatever other topics in kind of the infra as code landscape that are interesting. Please do submit CFPs for those. So PowerShell Summit, I put the link there. And then if there are any other conferences or things like that you think we should have more representation at, that we should be submitting CFPs for or anything of that nature, we'd love to hear about those as well. Please put those on our radar. We're definitely looking to do much more kind of community and meetup and conference engagement to the extent that anybody wants us there. So that's really all I had to cover.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. Okay, and our last topic of the day, requested updates. The top one may take a little bit, but we want to open this up to questions after Johnny presents on what we've been working on so far.
Sure.
I guess.
So,
Mhm.
Oh yeah. If you were about to say something, go ahead. Otherwise, I can jump in.
Sorry, yeah, it's not a presentation, just giving a high-level explanation of what we've been working on.
Sure. So we've been focusing on reducing short circuiting and what if to whatever state possible. This work has been going on for a while, but we're nearing the end. So basically, we're replacing the existing algorithm with a new one where we're not only like reducing short circuiting to the extent possible, but we also let you know when it happens, so that unlike with what you may have seen in previous iterations, if short circuiting does occur, it won't happen silently. So the final set of changes for the replacement algorithm are currently in review, and we're still thinking through how to roll these out and enable them globally in a safe manner. But we're nearing the finish line. And once we have finished that last set of changes, and once we've had a safe rollout where we've gotten to validate that things are working as expected, then we can roll this algorithm out and make it generally available, which can take a little while, but that would be depending on the services deployment schedule. And yeah, basically, I guess the top level is we're near the finish line. Looking forward to getting these out. I see in the chat there's a question, could you explain the short circuit problem? So at a very high level, when you deploy a template, that template contains expressions that don't get evaluated until runtime. There are a lot of places in a template where we insist that your expression be evaluable at the start of the deployment. These are called deploy time constants, and that's required for things like the resource name, the resource condition, so whether or not something will be deployed. In ARM templates, this isn't as much of an issue with Bicep. We also require that for the API version. So short circuiting happens when you have a nested deployment and you pass down as a parameter value something that would be a runtime expression, so not usable as a deploy time constant in the parent template, but it is for the purposes of the nested deployment a deploy time constant because it's passed in as a parameter. So this happens a lot. We've seen that it happens frequently to Bicep users because you guys love modules, and modules are a great mechanism for code reuse, but behind the scenes, a module compiles to a nested deployment. So we see a lot of use of nested deployments from Bicep users. Sorry, I'm just reading through the second question from Matt's. So asking about what if on deployment stacks, and I can tell you we are working through that. That's specifically something that we're looking at as a great way to reduce the problem of noise in what if, where deployment stacks will have more context about the previous state of the deployment. So the team is working through that. I don't know their timeline, but that is being actively investigated and worked on. And to Josh's question, will this fix any of the current noise and what if outputs? Not. We're still looking into that. We're still going to be working on that. It won't be addressed by the work that we're doing to reduce short circuiting. Okay, if there are any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. Put them in chat. Otherwise, I can hand this back to Stephanie for the next update.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. So Key Vault certificate support. Yeah, we were looking into Key Vault extensibility, still doing some research on that, but we talked to the Key Vault team and there were some issues in terms of like private networking, in the fact that it's just not as easy to implement as we originally thought. I know that for Terraform, in order to create Key Vault certificates or use other Key Vault I guess properties, you would need to use a local deploy mode, and that is something that we are trying to look into, whether or not we need to have local deploy mode in order to reach the Key Vault data plane, or if there's anything else we can try doing. So it is in the works, though we don't really have too many engineering resources to get this started immediately. We're trying to see if we could fit it into our next semester. And we know that Key Vault will be our next prioritized extensibility provider. Hopefully that answers the question of whoever asked that. And check if resource exists. This is something that it's actually been brought up recently multiple times. So we are looking into it, seeing what we can do with it. It's more of a change on the ARM backend as well as Bicep. So we're looking into it, but it is not something on our priority list at the moment, since we're focusing on some bigger ticket items like what if and getting deployment stacks out and everything. Yeah, Alex asked in chat, is anyone deploying Key Vault certificates with Terraform? Or additionally, anything else that is not relating to Key Vault keys creation. So I guess like role assignments and stuff. I guess not. Yeah, I think that's all we had today. So we are on to our Q&A. This is an open discussion for anyone who has any questions, and we can end after that.
I did just have one other follow-up question on the what if, Stephanie, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Yeah, please.
I think just anecdotally, it seems like a lot of people are complaining about what if all of a sudden. Does anyone have any theories as to why that is? I mean, maybe it's gotten worse. What if has gotten worse over the years, although I think it's basically been kind of a static state. So it's just kind of interesting to me to see so many requests coming in all of a sudden, even though the state of the what if API hasn't really changed.
You want an anecdotal on that?
Sure.
We're a Microsoft partner. We do a ton of consulting work in this. We've seen a lot more integrations of Bicep into pipelines as people are starting to reevaluate their Terraform deployments. So
Because of the licensing change?
some of it is a licensing change. Some of it is, Microsoft only. I'm Azure. Why should I be doing anything but Bicep? But we're seeing a lot more of this in the ecosystem. Now, obviously, multi-clouds and larger enterprises are still mostly Terraform. But we've seen an upturn in Bicep stuff. And we've seen an upturn in pipeline-based deployments. And when you're talking about a pipeline-based deployment, immediately you're looking at Terraform as the example, and Terraform definitively tells you exactly everything that it's going to change because it's got the nice, wonderful state file to do that. And the expectation is that the Bicep what if does the same thing.
Right.
And there's certainly a miss on that because of the modules and the nesting. I mean, if you ever take a Bicep file that uses modules extensively and extract it into an ARM template and look at that and think, I'm going to write this thing, you're a little crazy because we would have never written an ARM template like that before. But the way that Bicep,
I'm with you. I mean, the deficiency in functionality is I'm not arguing that at all.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that like all of a sudden and looking at the comments in chat as well as your comments, Chris, I mean, these are all good reasons, right?
Oh,
Basically,
no, absolutely.
the adoption is getting to a place where there's just more of an expectation.
Yeah. I mean, 2 years ago, if you said infrastructure as code, 90% of the time it'd be Terraform, maybe 95. Now it's about 60.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And that's, yeah, it's great.
Right.
Great problem to have.
Right.
But in Terraform, there are situations when you can get resources. The plan showing will be determined upon deployment, and usually when you start working with our infrastructure, you don't have the state file yet, and that's a problem. And people I know tend to forget about this, that Terraform also can not determine some output resources if you don't yet deploy it. Because the same problem is when you deploy a resource and you get a property that you don't know yet, that is not yet in the state file, you will still have like name on the dependent resource shown will be deployed up, will be determined after the deployment.
Yeah, that's a first time deployment. Yeah.
Yeah, but the first time deployment of the resource. The problem is now with the consecutive deployments, right? So when we deploy for a second time the same infrastructure in Terraform, we only deploy the changes, basically, right? Because we know we can determine what happened. In ARM, we just put another infrastructure again and again and again, the same infrastructure. Maybe with deployment stacks where we can read the variable, this can be a little bit better.
Yeah,
but still,
makes sense.
But still the thing is that the mechanism behind ARM and Terraform are different. So we cannot a bit compare, and basically we have a bigger problem with what if.
Yeah, I think there will remain pros and cons on both tools, related to plan or what if or whatever else related to some of the idiosyncrasies of how each tool works. But I'm okay at peace with saying that Bicep's what if is definitively worse on the whole. So we're going to try to make it close to as good or better as possible.
Oh, I see so many comments in chat. Does anyone want to come off mute and share their thoughts? Trying to make sure we didn't miss any other questions. Yeah, Michael?
Yeah, so I would just say, like, as we see a lot more interest in the Azure verified modules, and it's pretty frustrating to use something that Microsoft says they support and just right out of the gate, your plan doesn't work. So it almost seems like, I know this would be like better at the AVM team, but it seems like the AVM should have, as part of their framework, as part of their building requirements, that their modules should support what if. You should be able to see what you're going to do with those modules.
Yeah, I hear you on the frustration, but I think this one is more our fault than something they can realistically do something about. It's just because it's hard to ask them essentially not to use modules is what it would end up looking like.
I think the other thing I would add there, Alex, is we like, as part of this upcoming revision on what if, we are also releasing a Bicep linter to make it easier to author like what if proof templates or Bicep files. And so I think with that tool, it may make it easier for the AVM team as well.
Yes, that's true too. I think maybe my expectations are too high, but I feel quite good that the vast majority of the short circuiting problem is going to get solved. Sorry if I'm putting pressure on you, Johnny, but with the fix. And I think we should all just like plan to do a reassessment at that point and see how severe the problem remains, and if there are still AVM issues with short circuiting that require reauthoring at that point. And if it's a relatively small number, I think it's reasonable to go to them and ask for those types of changes.
And just to add to what Alex just said, and in response to a question from Taylor in chat, we really do think the bicep linter is going to help a lot, because even with the changes that we've added, there are still going to be cases where short circuiting can occur. But as far as I know, those should be made largely impossible with a lot of the things that a lot of the guardrails that Bicep puts in place. So one of the bigger changes is that with the current what if implementation, we short circuit entire nested deployments, entire modules, whereas we're hoping that even when we still do need to short circuit in the upcoming revision, that we can localize that to single resources. And yeah, using that bicep linter and really just using bicep rather than hand rolled arm modules should make sure that you stay within the boundaries of what will limit short circuiting even with the changes that we're rolling out.
Any other questions or comments that they wanted to share with our team? Okay, sounds good then. I think we could end it, 18 minutes early. Thanks everyone for coming to this call and sharing your feedback. There's so many comments in chat, which is super helpful for us to be able to log and make sure that we include in our planning and design for the features. So thank you everyone, and I will see you all next month. Thanks guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.